If you're here right now, your kid isn't talking to you and you don't know why. The silence is heartbreaking and you're not alone. I'll share some of my thoughts about what is going on with this no contact thing and the one painful truth most people miss. Stay with me. I made this video for you. I've worked with so many parents who ask me, what did I do that was so wrong? And sometimes they truly don't know. Estrangement is so layered and misunderstood. And if you've been carrying this pain in silence, you don't have to anymore. Let's take a deeper look together. Is no contact a trend? First, let's address the question that many parents ask. Is it a trend? Is it just because of social media? So let's dive into this. According to sociologist and author Carl Pilmer, he wrote this great book, Fault Lines. You want to read it. Around 27% of adult children are estranged from at least one person in their families. So on platforms such as Reddit and TikTok, there's a lot of conversation among adult children, and they describe things like what's the difference between low contact, what's no contact, and there's quite a bit of support in this community to help adult children navigate what they are saying is an absolute necessity. And let's remember that a trend is something that becomes more visible, more talked about, and this doesn't mean it's meaningless. It just means that people are finally putting words to something that's been quietly happening for decades. And here's what most people miss. No contact is almost never the first option. It's often a last resort, and they're saying it's used because they've run out of ways to feel safe or heard. How does trauma impact both sides of the equation? So one of the biggest missing pieces in conversations about estrangement is trauma and how it impacts both the adult child and parents. And if you're a sibling, and it impacts you too. When someone has unresolved trauma, especially from childhood, it affects emotional regulation. What does this mean? So it can go through the spectrum where somebody could be very highly activated. It means that they get very upset very easily. It seems like they don't really have a threshold for much distress. Or they can have absolutely no affect where they're almost like a blank slate. They don't respond or react very much. They're just very, very still. So we can have all behaviors within this, but the point is that trauma itself is something that impacts us long term. It doesn't just get resolved because we don't talk about it. And that means that conversations, especially difficult ones, can easily spiral into shutdowns, defensiveness on both sides, okay? And when both the parent and adult child have their own histories of pain, it's not a matter of right or wrong. This isn't about blaming either person. It's about understanding the emotional landmines that can make reconnection feel impossible, even when both parties really care about each other. Parents, you've survived tough things before. You're probably very resilient, but you may have learned to survive by shutting down emotions and toughing it out alone. And that can make it hard to connect emotionally with an adult child who is asking for something deeper. And sometimes what happens is there's activation on both sides. And so I hear parents telling me, okay, my adult child got completely, they flipped out, or they yelled at me, or they're disrespectful. Buzzword, right? Disrespectful. Yes, they are. And so are you. We're all disrespectful if we have the opportunity. And the thing is when this heightened kind of exchange happens, it's really hard to get anything across. So that could have been impacting trauma, impacting the way that you relate with each other, okay? And had relate in the past, which may have influenced a decision to go no contact. So I'm a therapist and an estrangement coach and a parent, daughter, and sister who's lived through family disconnection, not because everything was a bed of roses. I know how painful this is. One of the most heartbreaking things for us is not understanding why our loved one, our child, our parent, especially when they pull away and we feel like we did everything that we could. I hear from you, you're saying you think that I'm blaming you. I want you to know that this message comes without blame, without judgment. I aim to offer you understanding, clarity, and a little hope. So let's talk about what parents report. When I talk with parents, 5 reasons usually come up when trying to make sense of no contact. They talk about abuse or neglect. Okay, so for more on this, check out this video, Why Adult Children Cut Off Abuse, Betrayal, and Toxic Bad Parenting. Another thing is clashes in values and or beliefs. Okay, so like things like politics, religion, lifestyle, and this comes up a lot. On this topic, there seems to be some black and white thinking that I'm hearing a lot, like, well, I'm seeing it the right way, they're seeing it the wrong way, and I have to convince them, or vice versa. So this topic comes up. And the third reason is a lack of mutual respect. So parents feel disregarded and dismissed. So not being respected comes down to, hey, I'm mom, I'm dad, do you think you could treat me nice? You think you can speak to me properly? That kind of thing. And that makes perfect sense to me. I think if we could be kind-hearted with strangers or people we work with, why would we treat our children or our parents or our siblings any different? And then we have the fourth thing is parental alienation. Now, you know about this, but this is what parents talk about. Hey, I'm a victim of this. My partner, after the divorce and even during when we were together, they alienated my kids from me, and that's why there's no contact. And the fifth thing is mental health struggle of the adult child. And emotional wellness plays a significant role in cutting off, going no contact, and estrangement, and on both sides of the equation for all parties. These are sensitive topics. Many parents say to me, I did my best, and I believe them. I believe that they did the best they could with the resources they had. This statement is not permission to just say that because they did their best, adult children are following trends or brainwashed by their therapist. We know so much more about children and adolescents and their needs to feel safe and to feel loved and approved. And if you want me to speak more about this on harmful childhoods, leave me a comment and I'll put out a video for you. But even with the best of intentions, things get lost in translation across generations. It's okay to acknowledge the pain without accepting the blame for everything. So what adult children report? Okay, so on the other side, adult children often cite these 5 themes when choosing distance or no contact. 1, they talk about emotional abuse or control, feeling manipulated or dismissed. 2, they talk about boundary violations, not feeling heard or respected. 3, they talk about unresolved conflict, repeating the same painful patterns. 4, they talk about no space for vulnerability, feeling unsafe expressing emotions. 5, the need for emotional safety, choosing peace over connection. Again, this doesn't mean they're always right, but their experience matters, just like yours does. The goal isn't to take sides. It's to understand what's at the root of this disconnection so that healing becomes possible. This is the part most people get wrong. So after reading lots of Reddits, going in and listening to a lot of adult children on TikTok, listening to different creators, here's what I'm getting the beat on as a therapist. Estrangement isn't usually about entitlement or selfishness. It's about emotional safety. When parenting doesn't have consequences and children are not held to a standard of accountability, guess what? This is poor parenting. Sorry. It could have occurred because you didn't want your kid to be upset when you set rules. Maybe your kid had a more expressive or spicy personality, so you avoided placing consequences to prevent the upset that would likely follow. This could have occurred for many reasons, but the point is that this type of parenting isn't optimal for the child who has perhaps gotten all these mixed messages from a parent who is also highly expressive in their reactions. That's where the safety comes in. So when people on either side don't feel safe, They distance themselves, not because they hate you, but because they don't know how else to protect themselves. And that's why understanding trauma, regulation, and emotional safety is key to rebuilding any relationship. And I hope every possible action and communication is taken to resolve the situation before a cutoff happens. I know we get so emotionally verklempt that not all of us, but some choose to get out of relationships because staying in the fray is so uncomfortable. We do not resolve or have that conversation of, hey, we need to do something because it's gotten to the point that I am about to say I'm done. Okay? And if that conversation doesn't happen, it's not good. If you're a parent in pain right now, I want to say this. You're not a failure. You're not being blamed. You're being invited to explore, to understand, and if it feels right, to try a new way forward, okay? And if you're an adult child watching, maybe hurting in your way, I see you too. I'm an adult child. It's happened to me. These relationships are complicated, but they don't have to stay broken. Healing is possible. It starts with compassion for yourself and for each other. See you in the next video.